The wedding ceremony was remarkably absent.
And Liberty is now, tweeting "Love wins." It's not that love across difference. It's not the Christ-like cruciform love.
Yeah.
It's this new thing that is not worthy of the name. Where angels fear to tread. We're talking about H and M. My name is G, and joining me is
NML.
There we go. Apparently, that's what we're meant to do. Just use the initials. Yeah.
I've been after my reaction to H&M, I've been referring to myself as Piers Morgan Locke.
Okay.
But no, I'm not, because I didn't want to get into this topic.
But
we are here.
We are here. Yeah, and with all the dangers, we are kind of embracing the danger of stepping into this maelstrom of media chaos. Part of the danger of talking about Harry and Meghan, whose documentary is now completed, I guess for now. The 6 parts have just dropped on Netflix.
Yes.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
The danger is that they are avatars of something much greater. And then obviously the royals are avatars of something much greater. The media that covers the royals is cartoonish in lots of different ways.
Yep.
Certainly the tabloid press is cartoonish. Yep. Social media and the new media world is pretty cartoonish and caricaturist in what's going on. And so we're all arguing about caricatures of avatars, of grand principles and universalizing kind of ideas and concepts. Yep. And who knows if any of this actually relates to the human beings that are Harry and Meghan and William and Kate, and let's not forget all the other people who are involved in this. So those are some of the dangers, don't you think?
And because we talked in the last episode about ethos, pathos, and logos, and now we're in the realm of mythos.
Oh, come on.
Actually, I just started reading a book I've been wanting to read for a while, Narrative Apologetics by Alistair McGrath. Really, really helpful book. But yeah, just talking about what's the power of persuasion? The power of persuasion is story. Right. And you need to tell the story. You need to tell your story. Yeah. And you have to use the things of story, which are these deeply rooted characters and types and archetypes.
Yes.
And so we have what is apparently a great love story.
A fairy tale.
A fairy tale.
Yes.
A great love story.
Framed both at beginning and end as the fairy tale of the princess marrying the prince, and she gave up everything to be in his world,
and then he gave up everything
to be in her world, and the grand finale. And I predicted this before I got to the end. They would end with "Love wins," and that's final line. Love wins, which is a hashtag, I guess,
or it's a farewell from Rob Bell. That's what we say. So the love wins thing. So Harry opens that, and it's in the first episode. This is a great love story, and the problem is it isn't. Right, it really isn't. It is.
It's an okay love story.
Well, Giles Fraser, I'm sure we'll get into his article that he wrote in Unheard, talks about it being an incredibly ordinary romance. Yeah. Right, and it is. It is so ordinary. Yeah. When they're telling the story of how boy meets girl. Yeah. There are no real stakes. There's no real obstacles. Yes. There's I liked you, you liked me. We met on the first date. It went well. We wanted to do another one. It was well. Our lives are busy, so we had some scheduling issues. Yes. I kept having to leave Canada and fly to the UK. Right. Oh, that's hard. It's pressure. Yep. And there was all this issue around the press coverage. Yep. But there's no jeopardy. There is nothing. It's not like, well, it was going so well, but then some message from the palace came and said, you must not marry this woman. Yes. And so then I said, by golly, I can't. Yes. And then I looked at her again. And then, of course, I had to
give up my great riches.
So, but there's nothing of that in their coming together story. So
there's opulence and affluence, because it's not like they met at a Wimpy Burger. They met at a very highfalutin restaurant, and the flights that they had to have. It's not bombing down the M1 to see your beloved on the weekend. It's flying first class from Canada and all that.
Yeah. And being, they're at great pains to show, particularly Meghan's friends in the first few episodes, She was a woman in her own right, with her own humanitarian work, with her own activist profile, with her own groundbreaking role on Suits, right? She was already this absolute global superstar who was being used by the UN and all this sort of stuff. And she met this wonderful Prince of England who's,
Prince Charming.
Who's going to be there. And you're like, well, so where is that's not a fairy tale story.
So what's interesting is that they broke it after 3 episodes and then sort of dived back into the story in episode 4. And what's interesting is that was around the wedding. So the wedding is what happens in episode 4.
Yep.
And I think in your typical storytelling kind of arc, the inciting incident is this call to adventure and something goes wrong, right? That means that you will have to step out of your safe environment and into the struggle,
into the unknown,
Yeah. And what's interesting is in this story, the wedding is the inciting incident, rather than the fairy tale ending. The wedding is where things start to go wrong, and I wonder whether that's a sign of the kind of stories that we're telling about ourselves. The wedding is the inciting incident, and things kind of go wrong. But the happily ever after, I guess, is they're back on Instagram, and they're able to kind of enjoy expressing themselves with a kind of Californian freedom.
Yeah,
and that's the happy ending, rather than the wedding being.
Well, that's what's interesting, to finish episode 6 with the wedding speech that Meghan gave, right? And the love wins thing. And also you're still finishing on Harry's literally driving off into the sunset, right? Multiple shots of him reflecting on that sort of stuff. So it's still using a classic ending. And the call back to the wedding as like, oh no, we still need to land on a wedding. We still need to have the happy couple in their, their mansion in California, and to be gathered, with their family around them, right? You still sort of need that sort of thing. But the wedding of Windsor is one that is being used, as you say, as a sort of inciting incident. I mean, we should probably get on to the... I mean, I really struggled to watch it. I really didn't enjoy watching it, and I got very sort of angry watching it, because it is so profoundly narcissistic, notwithstanding any of the potential abuse or harm or bullying or all sorts of awful things that might have happened, right? And lots and lots of what they're saying might be true, right? It might the whole documentary might just be one truth bomb after another, and it's all stands up and will stand up, to scrutiny, right? Saying that it all might be there, this is still profoundly narcissistic. This is not this is exposing a worldview that is so egotistical, so self-aggrandizing and self-congratulatory that it actually makes you less able to hear the questions of abuse, trauma, bullying. Actually, those things are swallowed by the narcissism of this film or of this series. Yeah, I don't know.
I think you've had a stronger reaction to it than me, in terms of
probably most people. I think it'd be fair to say,
because I'm like, I'm not sure I can believe your framing of events here, Meghan. I think there's a track record of you saying things, and then when fact checkers come in, it proves not to be the case. But I think so let's go with the avatars. So so Meghan and Harry, in this fairy tale, are representing independence, liberty, self-expression, expressive individualism. That's riding off into the sunset in California. They are expressing that. And, of course, on the other side is the old world of the institution of royalty, of duty. Now, when their side kind of metastasizes, it's all about ego. Right. What they would say is, we have released ourselves from the cloying kind of bondage of not having a personality, not being able to have a voice, and we have finally been able to break free. And there's finally an I that can have a view, that can speak. Of course, when that metastasizes, it's all about I. It's all about me, and it becomes the egotism. There is, on the royal duty side, a metastasized kind of version of that, in which people, they do get their hooks into you, and they bleed you dry because it's all about the institution, and there is no place for me.
Right.
Where's the place?
Where's the role of the individual?
Where's the voice
in the institution
for the individual in the institution? And there's a clash going on there because that side can metastasize too, and there is a danger of the crushing of the person, in order to serve this institution that just rolls on down through the centuries. And I think and that's what's being presented to us. But if all you're hearing is egotism, then you're not going to hear the genuine kind of, hey, hang on. I was crushed here. I said I had suicidal thoughts, and that was just brushed away.
And I can see the point that you say, if you go into an institution already with a mindset of self-promotion and of having a publicist and like, this might not go very well. Okay, it's quite possible to say there was a real lack of a profound lack of forethought in terms of what an English prince marrying an American actress would produce. It was almost like everyone was just going, "Oh, let's not worry about that." Apparently, because the two things are so utterly sort of against each other. The correct comparison, I think, to make is, I mean, there's lots of comparison made between Kate and Meghan, and we can go into the fact that there's some comparison made, and it's lacking in any real information about what's going on there. The comparison is really between Meghan and Queen Elizabeth II, and so you have someone who is, as you say, is the institution, right, and who is the role, and who has sort of been about sort of self-denial through and through and through and through. And how well did we get to know the person? Well, we got to know them pretty well, but it took us 70 years or so, and it was all quite sort of protected. And then someone who is about growing their name, like increasing their celebrity, getting bigger roles, trying to grow the influence, and those two things are not going very well. So I think from my point of view, the issue is you have the aspirational actress against the sort of downplaying institution. That those two things are working completely oppositionally.
And interestingly, she seemed to come in and think that the institution was a public-facing thing, and that behind closed doors, well, you don't curtsy in private, do you? And when we come indoors, there's not a level of formality regarding the Queen, is there? She clearly didn't fathom that. And that's and I believe her about that. She talks in the early episodes about she just wasn't prepared for the fact that when they got home from a function, they didn't kick off their shoes and down some gins and just let their hair down. They really took this institution seriously all the way down, and that this family all the way down was also an institution. It's not that above the surface level there's the institution and underneath there's she didn't find that. And part of that, I think, is about the nature of the royal family, and part of that is English people, right? And yet I think that culture clash was being mapped onto the institutional royal side of things, such that she couldn't really get through. I mean, and someone who's grown up in California is not going to understand British, and I mean, to call the royal family's posh is like redundant. But how does a Californian come across posh English people? That's always going to be an issue. But I think she couldn't quite believe going into this thing that the institution went all the way down, and that there is something right and proper and good about curtsying, let's say, even if it's in private, and that's not just for show. That's not. And at that point, because I think she had an idea of royalty that's more like celebrity life in California.
Yeah.
Than royalty as it actually is in the old world. And there's that kind of misunderstanding. And I think, I believe her when she says, I wasn't really prepared for that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the struggle in terms of what preparations were taking place sort of for them as a couple and for her kind of joining the family in all sorts of ways, is that you've actually got two quite different ideas being presented at the same time and not challenged as being, so which one was it kind of really going on?
Yes.
So you have the idea that I had to Google the national anthem.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, it's not that big a deal in one sense, but by the same token, you're being told you were not allowed to send photographs or invite certain people to the wedding, sort of thing. So on the one hand, you have this thing which is I was completely left alone. I was ignored. People turned their backs on me, and there was no support, no introduction. I had no idea what a walkabout was. I had to go to Nottingham. I mean, like, that's genuinely one of the best things. Like, but then we had to go, and I couldn't believe it. We had to go to Nottingham.
Squee! Yeah.
But then actually, we nailed it. We nailed Nottingham. We were so good. We were like the best people at visiting Nottingham ever. No one had ever visited Nottingham like we did. We practically invented Nottingham, right? So it's like set up, like within the storytelling of the documentary, it's set up as though it's a big ordeal. So is it that you weren't prepared?
Yep.
And you had to go through these things with no one giving you any instruction whatsoever?
Yeah.
Or is it that you were being controlled? Every single part of your life was being sort of checked, and you were being crushed into conformity.
Yes.
And you think, well, those two things are very difficult.
Pick one. That was one of, I think I counted 9 dilemmas in the documentary that really struck me, where I just wanted to ask, which is it? You know, is it respect our privacy or watch our documentaries? Which is it? Is the media a pack of wolves, or do they write out checks? Is it wrong to sell your story to the media, including using your mother and children without their consent? Or is it fine? Is the most important thing about Meg her race, or is she just another girl? And at points... there's one, and at points there's the other, and I well understand that in different contexts that comes to the fore more. But if you're always in charge of when it's important and when it's not important, then other people are going to say, well, are we allowed to notice? Are we not allowed to notice? Which, you know, should we all make much of the racial makeup of the royals? Which from one point she was encouraging us to do. Or must we never mention it?
Right. Yeah. Literally never.
Is Lilibet's red hair and blue eyes noteworthy? Which the documentary says it is.
Yeah.
Or are we racist for finding that interesting?
Yeah.
I found it interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, red hair.
Yeah.
I guess that's more from her dad.
Yeah.
Right? Are we even allowed to say that?
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Is prejudice really bad? Or are the Brits all tin pot jingoistic racists? Which there was, especially in the early episodes.
There was a lot of kind of...
flag waving.
Yeah, look at those
Brexit loving.
Awful British people. And another thing, which is to say, you know, that there was a really interesting build-up to Meghan's start on the rise, right? That the royal family... were all in attendance at some event November 2019 or something. They've all got their sort of remembrance sort of poppies on, and the next day, and they were at Buckingham Palace, and they go for breakfast, and what's happened? The whole royal family was there. And who's the Telegraph put on the front? It's Meghan.
Oh, she hated
popular.
That. She would
She's
hate
too
that.
popular.
Yeah.
She's her star is in the ascendancy, and people get jealous, right? And then that gets compared with exactly the same time gets compared with Diana speaking about going to Australia and see, it's all your fault.
Yeah.
Going to Australia and the crowds wanting to have Diana walk down their side rather than have Charles, and so that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the jealousy, and again, you think, okay, so what's going on there?
I mean, that's genuine. That's real.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know,
absolutely fine. It's fine to do that. However, you've also got at the same time, she was getting all this bad press. She was hated by the British press.
Yes, that's
the
another
British
dilemma.
press were constantly saying nice things about Kate, and they would say terrible things about Meghan. Look, all these articles, side by side. It's so atrocious.
Yep.
So which one is it? Is it that the press loves you and everyone's jealous, and then they come in?
Yep.
Which is one timeline. That doesn't fit with this thing in 2019, just before they announce kind of the thing.
And so I think those dilemmas where one side of the dilemma is being chosen at one point and then another side of the dilemma is being chosen at another point is a sign that we are taking these facts and pressing them into a very set fairy tale narrative, and manipulating the facts as we go. And I mean, the thing that really bugged me is this really a documentary?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, once you are telling a story and you see that tension, you need to ask the obvious question, which is, so which is it?
Yep.
And there was absolutely zero pushback, questioning of their sort of course of events, which I suppose even the questioning with a sort of that sense that this is my truth is that if you question my recollection of the events, you're questioning me. You're somehow sort of invalidating me as a person, because I can't actually. I'm so deeply involved in my own understanding of the truth that to be challenged on it would be to attack me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is what makes the documentary so...
Well, and because you know that there can't really be a genuine comeback from the royals. William's not going to do 6 hours on Netflix.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, now's the time for us to tell our story, right? So you're going to get their series of events. Because apparently the other side has been told.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, has it, though?
Yeah.
We've literally not heard.
Yeah.
There is no documentary series about William and Kate.
And I think that's so interesting about new world, new media power versus old world, old media power. Because there is such a thing as institutional power, and of course the royals are powerful, like in a very old world sense. And of course the kind of the legacy media, of course the Daily Mail, of course tabloid press has a kind of power, like of course they do. But of course Netflix does, and Spotify does, and Instagram does. And someone who is good at harnessing social media has an incredibly different kind of power. And it does remind me a little bit about some of the church abuse stuff that we've covered in the last couple of years. That within the church there is a very ancient kind of a platform called a pulpit, and there's institutional power, and there's a very new media that is not constrained in the same ways and has more possibilities for calling things out at the same time, and you get that kind of clash of how are we going to forward our interests? And what's fascinating about that is both sides do not generally acknowledge the kind of power that they have. So an old world kind of a preacher who's just used to the way things have always been is not always alert to the fact that what you say from that pulpit carries a power and a weight and a spiritual authority that can really damage people. And there is such a thing as spiritual abuse, and there is a way of misusing that kind of authority. At the same time, on social media, there is a kind of a wielding of power, a very different kind of a power, but often without the acknowledgement that the things said online carry weight. And you've got a battle that's incredibly mismatched in different ways. And it is right to raise problems with the institutional power. And we've used this platform here to raise problems with institutional power, and I think that's absolutely right. But I need to own the fact that okay, in our tiny little church sphere, I'm quite good at wielding that, and I can say things, and just because it's a YouTube video doesn't mean it doesn't have power, doesn't have real world consequences, and it doesn't mean I can't crush people using new media power. Just as the old world, old media power can crush people, and I think part of what's so difficult about this clash is that neither side is good at acknowledging the power that they have, and stewarding that and acknowledging that and figuring out, I could hurt people with this thing. The royals can hurt people. Netflix can hurt people.
And just having, as we mentioned it from the outset, this idea of avatars or sort of archetypal figures, which aren't real people and which don't take into account the whole person that is before you.
Yes.
And there is, the tabloid press obviously does a terrible job because it just creates caricatures for us, and we just sort of, we've talked about, Liz Truss, like, what do you think of Liz Truss? Do you think of Liz Truss as an entire human being with all these different aspects to her, or do you just think of her as,
ironically, the curtsy as well?
The curtsy,
that's how we remember
the curtsy,
the bow.
So have you got this sense that this is a real, genuine person in front of you with fears and failures, with guilt and with shame, and with who has sinned and been sinned against, and that real complicated thing that makes a human being.
Yes.
To have 6 hours of a documentary, mainly about Meghan rather than being about Harry, and not to have any genuine sense of her as a person is it's all here, it's all from this at arm's length, and the gushing, sycophantic kind of friends saying how difficult everything was means that she doesn't exist as a real person, right? There is a real person behind that, and that what's so awful about this series, and what's such a shame, is that you don't actually get to know that person,
right?
Because they are either the pure innocent victim who's never done anything wrong, or they are the most glorious star that has ever shone in the sky because of their brilliance and their genius. That is not a real person,
right?
And you don't get to know this person.
And I guess that's the real criticism of, I guess, progressivism as a whole. So, in my book, The Air We Breathe, I talk about the seventh value. I talk about progress. And here's something that Christianity has given to the world. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of history is long, it bends towards justice. It's a profoundly Christian, it's a profoundly prophetic idea. It's biblical. But there are different kinds of progress. And I make the caution that, not everything that comes under the banner of progress is good. Just look at Chairman Mao and the Great Leap Forward that killed tens of millions of people. Perhaps that's not progress. And perhaps not everything that is under the banner of progress is good. Where it goes wrong is so often in the failure to acknowledge any kind of sin in me or in the other person. Because I don't acknowledge sin in me, then there's not the humility and the honesty of where I've gone wrong. And because I don't kind of think of the other person as a sinner who can be forgiven, then they are just an evil person who must be, squashed, and the rolling tide of history will crush them good. And I think in some ways that this kind of comes together with Martin Luther King Jr. He was quoted by Michael Curry, who gave the sermon at the wedding.
At the wedding in Windsor,
The wedding in Windsor, Harry and Meghan. I thought right there you've got a brilliant interplay of there's Harry and Meghan having a beautifully modern wedding in lots of different ways. And there's George Clooney, and there's David Beckham, and there's Elton John, and people are flying in from around the world, and there's an aspect to which it's a celebration of modern love, and it's held in Windsor, and it's ancient, and you've got this Episcopal bishop, giving the sermon. He starts with Martin Luther King.
The late Dr. Martin Luther King once said, and I quote, "We must discover the power of love, the redemptive power of love. And when we do that, we will make of this old world a new world. For love is the only way. There's power in love."
And he kind of waxes eloquent about that. And at that point, he's trying to engage with the Meghans of this world, and he's trying to engage with the George Clooney's of this world and say, here we are celebrating love as this modern thing. And love in this modern thing is, let's have a blowout for a wedding, and let's write our own vows, and let's, but what's fascinating is both what Martin Luther King meant and what Michael Curry went on to say in the sermon. Martin Luther King, when he said love is the most redeeming power in the world, it was in a sermon called Love Your Enemies. And so that love is not love the lovely, love people who are on your team, love people who are on team progress, and cancel the rest. It's very much in the context. I think he preached that sermon in 1957, and he had a lot of enemies. And he really knew what it was to love across, barriers and have people make very serious death threats. And, his house was bombed, and who knows how his wife and child survived that. But he was talking about love your enemies, which is a very different kind of a love. And then Michael Curry goes on in the sermon, and he talks about the love that we're meant to show is the sacrificial love of Jesus. And he says, Jesus did not get a certificate for the way that he loved. People were not praising him for his expression of love. It was love to the loveless shown.
He wasn't getting anything out of it. He gave up his life. He sacrificed his life for the good of others, for the good of the other, for the well-being of the world, for us. That's what love is. Love is not selfish and self-centered. Love can be sacrificial.
That was the day where Meghan did her speech about Love Wins. That was the day when she told her fairy tale about the princess and marrying the prince, and in the end, love wins. But the sermon that was sort of echoing in everyone's mind as she said that gives us two very different visions of what love is. And it's not primarily the romantic love of two people like having an Instagram account together. It's the sacrificial love of Jesus. It's the love across boundaries. It's the love of enemy. And I guess my big thing about the documentary is, love wins, but which love? Which love won in that documentary? And I think it was the trite, modern, self-expressive one. Yeah.
No, I think that's exactly right. It's it's interesting how the marriage is apparently the thing that this documentary is about, right? Harry and Meghan. The wedding ceremony was remarkably absent and not a point of interest, right? We have something about they're going to sing. What were they going to sing?
What was the song?
The choir. It was just sort of this kind of all-star choir.
No,
I think they sang that. And we had the thing about the drive up, in which Meghan and her mother were incredibly surprised to see all these well-wishers. As though she'd literally become a competition winner the day before, and so glad that she was able to just have a moment eating some, croissants and drinking a samosa and feeling peace on the day before. Not interesting, right? Not, and no jeopardy, right? And, but what would have been interesting would have been to really push into what was said in that sermon. And to look at what it was that they were promising to do and the way in which the marriage ceremony actually functions. But that is for their purposes of no interest. Because what's interesting is that we are a perfect couple who have nothing against one another. There was nothing in there about the challenge of being married.
Yeah.
You know, there was family is really difficult, keeps breaking down, and you know, Meghan
on both sides.
Yeah, talks about how she wants it, you know, from the beginning. But she recited a poem that she wrote when she was 11 about divorce. We didn't investigate that. That was really interesting. Think, you're both children, products of divorce. They both use the same phrase, right? Yeah. Meghan was divorced before she got married to Harry. Yeah, there was no interest in that at all. No, the prospect that what might have been the causes of divorce. What is it like genuinely, other than you know, why did anyone get divorced? Yeah. Apparently, just a thing that just happens in the world. Yeah. But all of these sorts of genuinely interesting questions about the nature of love, about the sacrificial nature of love, about the need to love across boundaries and to love, as you say, to love those who are undeserving of it, is just completely absent. Yeah. And this is just a saccharine, you know, not even a fairy tale. Fairy tales are so much more interesting.
You're right.
You're right. So much more interesting.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. It's well, there's no plot, is there? There are protagonists, but no real plot. Yeah. Is there? It's old world, old media, new world, new media, and they've gone in their separate ways. Yeah. The end.
They're over there.
The end. So where is the marriage? Yeah. Where is the love across boundaries?
Yeah.
So why are we doing this, Nate? So I put on Twitter, you know, Nate and I are going to talk about Harry and Meghan. Quite a few people were like, why?
This is the one that people did not want us to make. I think, as I said at the beginning, the narcissism that I'm taking from this, in terms of how it is so it's saturated our view. You know, people talk about moral therapeutic deism, right? This is kind of, but the morality's changed. The morality is just to thine own self be true, and you know, there is a real sort of prosperity gospel link to this. Okay. In fact, you think look at the spirituality espoused by Oprah Winfrey or by Tyler Perry. This is a deeply seductive
self-fulfillment
gospel which people need to be on their guard against. And I think, as you know, those who want to speak life, we want to say that there is something so much better than this presentation of the human being. There is not grace in this documentary. There's no mercy in this documentary. There is just look at me. It's there's no contrition. There's nothing there that we know as Christians is the basis and is the grounding of our salvation and our peace. Yeah. You know, that was that whole thing on truth. I can't have peace without truth. It's like, well, this was not truth. You may have said things that were true. Yeah. But you are not this person. And presenting yourself as this person, you can't be that. No one could be that person.
Well, if you are that person, there's a problem, because there was a great shallowness there. Yeah, really. Yeah. And I just wanted the interviewer off screen just to like push back at something, ask some tricky question. Yeah. And I think for me, there's the Giles Fraser wrote a great article for Unheard that you've referenced already, and he kind of points to these two different conceptions for what life is like, and am I obligated only to the things I've chosen to do? And if you believe that, then you're Team Sussex, you know, or are there obligations that are incumbent upon me, whether I've chosen them or not? Yeah. And actually, that is more a traditional kind of view, but Giles Fraser's point is that is what love is actually. That if you foreground choice and the expression of the particular and the expression of me, you end up losing love, right? Because it then does become, you know, narcissistic. Of course, as I've said, the problem with the traditional is that where is the sense of me, and am I entirely lost in this institution that just grinds along? But that's not the only way to cast it. in its healthiest sense, love is, I belong to you even when I don't feel like it. I belong to you before I chose it. And you belong to me in spite of all the things that you might do to not deserve my love or to reject it. Love is about the unconditionality of belonging to someone across divides and in spite of your choice. And like where I see like the gospel kind of explaining all this is that liberty and the sense of self has been a beautiful fruit of the gospel in this world. The ancient world did not have a sense of the beautiful princess who can stand on her own 2 feet, right?
Yeah.
And it was very much authority and dominance. And the Christian revolution has brought us this sense of self, this sense of particularity. And first it sort of brought us this sense that, okay, it's not just fate and it's not just going to be tragic because Jesus rose from the dead. Love won.
Yeah.
Love won over that one inevitability, that suddenly birthed this idea that, okay, there is a happily ever after, and it birthed this sense that in union with Christ, the one necessity in life can be transcended. And you started to believe in choice, and you started to believe in freedom. And actually the sexual ethic of Christians started to teach people this sense that you can choose. Because there were Christians who were saying no to the sexual economy of the ancient world and saying, I'm just going to be chaste. And churches would publish their virgin lists. It's like, look, we can choose against the necessities of sex and death. Sex and death is not in charge. Jesus is in charge. I'm freed from sex and death. And then politically what happened is, Larry Seidentop talks about this in Inventing the Individual, is that you had this sense that, okay, we're all souls before God equal. And Christ has invited us to table so that we're all brothers and sisters and nobody's Lord except him. And suddenly I'm not lost in the shuffle. I'm not just dissolved into the collective. I'm a person who Jesus knows. And he feeds me with his body and blood. And there's a particularizing thing that kind of happens. So liberty is sort of the daughter of love. Love has come in the person of Jesus. And liberty has been like her daughter. The problem is liberty has run away from home, and squandered wealth in the far country, and now kind of comes back home and knocks off love, and claims the estate for herself. And what is actually liberty is being branded as love, and and liberty is now tweeting love wins. Yeah. But it's not that love across difference. It's not the Christ-like cruciform love. Yeah. It's this new thing that is not worthy of the name.
Yeah. And so obviously we will continue to try to proclaim the love that is worthy of the name, and that's the name of Jesus. And so as Speak Life, we kind of exist to help people love Jesus, who is love himself. God is love. This is how God showed his love amongst us. That Christ is God's expression of love towards us in sacrifice.
Yeah. And so God loves Meghan.
He
God
does.
Loves Harry. And, and none of this means that there isn't a world in which Harry and Meghan having an exit from royal duties is the wrong thing to have done.
Could have, yeah.
Or to have spoken out if things unfolded the way she says they unfolded about her suicidal thoughts, then let the light shine and all that kind of stuff. If that is true, and so it's not that Jesus wants you to remain in a in an abusive institution no matter what.
Yeah, and I suppose the great thing about this is, it's also the worst thing about this, is that this story is not over.
Oh yeah.
This is going to continue to run, and there are real people involved, and the grace of God is still being extended out by Christians and churches around the world, in the hope that people will find Christ.
Absolutely.
And but I don't really want to watch any more of those episodes.
Well, somebody said we're just waiting for William and Kate's kids to grow up, so that unfortunately the spotlight just searingly shines on them, and we can move on from this particular drama. But it's now we can move on. You and I can move on. I think we've done our duty. We watched this documentary, so you don't have to. So let that be a lesson.
Yeah.
NML, thank you so much.
GS, thank you.
We'll see you again. Go Les.
Bye-bye.